Glen came early into the world, and he never stopped.
He'd come in here and whiz around the house, take off his shoes, do this, do that, and be gone before you could say hello to him.
He couldn't just ride a bike. He had to build a ramp, and he had to, you know, go flying across the ramp. He had to build go-karts.
He was always a wise guy. When we were little, he used to hide behind me and my friends because we were bigger than him. He used to go start something and come run to us. Guys, I need help.
Where there was trouble, there was Guy and Glen. I mean, if one didn't think of it, the next one did.
Frickin' frack stay together for life, I guess.
They would go down into, you know, whose ever basement and take whatever paint they could find that, you know, they found in the basement from their that house. So it could be different colors, blacks, reds, yellows, greens, and then go and paint, you know, somebody's garage door, all those colors.
I was a volunteer firefighter basically right out of high school, and every time my radio would go off, he would jump in the car with me, and I think that's what got him into it, and he enjoyed it.
He joined the junior firefighters at Lakeland.
We used to go ride bikes to every call there was in Long Island. Didn't care where it was, we were there.
I think one of the reasons he liked it, because if the alarm went off during school hours, he could get out of school.
By the time he was 16, Tom was running him out to calls in the middle of the night at the fire department, and that's where he learned to start helping others, and he never stopped.
Instead of running to safety, he ran into the mix of things, because that was his nature.
We used to call him the nosy one. That's the only thing. We wanted to know what was going on in the neighborhood, we sent Glen.
Glen always wanted to be right where the action was.
We would get to a crime scene, and I would take out my notebook to start to interview the sergeant on the scene. And before I could even get a word out of my mouth, Glen was already starting to interview the guy, had everybody's position pegged, where the media should be set up. He was practically orchestrating the whole crime scene, so it was no surprise to me when he became a cop.
I was the first one on the job. I used to bring him NYPD hats and NYPD t-shirts that he would wear every day to school. He thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
I thought I talked fast, and Glen talked really fast, especially when he got nervous.
Sometimes he'd talk, I didn't know what he was saying. His mother knew all the time, though.
He wasn't a very good driver. He liked to get up and go wherever he had to go as quick as possible, and he was always the first person there.
And I happen to notice as I'm getting in on the other side of the car that the car has an almost completely flat tire. I mentioned that to Glen. Unfortunately, it didn't slow him down at all. In fact, I think when I mentioned it to him, he was doing 60. Right after I mentioned it to him, he was doing 90.
I remember once Mark Ambrico and I were doing parking lot inspection of the crew cars, looking for vehicle inspections. And I go, Mark, that car over there, why are the tires so bald on one side? And he's like, it's Glen's car. I said, so where does that come from? He says, aggressive cornering.
Being behind the camera to him was a passion.
The New York Times publishes very few photos, yet Glen's photo is one of the photos that was published in the New York Times 100th anniversary publication, hardcover bound book. Glen's photo was in there for what he had taken.
Everything was get the shot. Whatever you spotted was just get the shot. You have to get the shot. No matter, everything else can just stop. The world can stop. The shot has to come first.
He just had an instinct for the field. He just had an instinct to be where the action was.
He'd listen to the police scanner. Come on, we're going for a ride. Let's go.
We used to make fun of him all the time. Where's your camera? Hurry up, this is going on. Where's your camera? And he used to start laughing about it. But it was the truth. He was going home for his job. He loved what he did.
You always knew when Glen was in the room. He never came in quietly.
We'll sit at the assignment desk with you and bust your chops, looking through Newsday and saying, how come we didn't have that? You know, and it's spanked again.
He's a practical joker.
Because he would come to people's houses and do things to irritate them. You know, like come to my house and just turn all my pictures upside down.
He wasn't a great speller. And he'd always ask you to, how do I spell this? Just give me the spelling of it. I don't want anything else.
Glen was always the first person to tell you if your clothes didn't match. He was always the first person to get on your case, and that was what made him so lovable and endearing. Once you met him once, he was your friend forever, would do anything for you.
My childhood hero was Buddy Harrelson growing up, and he pulled Buddy aside. He got a ball, and he said, could you do this favor for me? And he knew Glenn, and he goes, no, this is for my brother Tom. And he had Buddy make it out personalized to me and sign the ball.
If you mentioned it to Glenn, somehow it wound up on your doorstep, or somehow you got into your car and it was sitting there. But he would never tell you he did it. You just kind of had to figure it out.
Just if he sees somebody that needs a hand, he will always offer a hand.
We had a fire last Christmas. It was like a week before Christmas time last year, and Glenn was there, and he was one of the guys helping out, taking care of making sure the Christmas presents were put aside, covered up, everything else, so the family could, at least have a Christmas, even though it wouldn't be in their house.
If he saw you in the hallway, he couldn't just wave. He had to come over and have a full conversation with you, to the point where the elevator doors would have to shut.
He kept in touch with everybody. I'm getting so many phone calls from people that haven't been here in a while.
The best thing that probably could have happened was the past 9 months, because, we really got to spend a lot of time and quality.
The Saturday before September 11th, we were all together at my brother Neil's engagement party.
He was there just being the proud brother, and hanging out with all their friends. And, it was nice. For whatever reason, we all got together that weekend. It was perfect. The night before, that Monday night, he went to an Emerald Society meeting and, was walking home. He called my mother on the phone. He called my sister on the phone. And he went and visited my brother Neil, who was working at Penn Station. And I know, that Monday night, he just had a great night.
On September 11th, that day, I think, just like everything else, is he wanted to be the first person there. He wanted to help out in any way he can, and he also wanted to get the best video.
We jumped in the car, and as we were heading down there, Glenn, right away, he was driving. He started giving orders. Listen, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna get the tight shot. You guys stay, you get the establishing shot, you get the ambulance, emergency vehicles responding, the general scene. I'm gonna get in there real tight and we'll get the footage. We parked the car, and I had a camera. I was taping out the window of the building at that point. And Glenn grabbed the second camera and he ran up the east side of the street as fast as he could on the side of the street of the Trade Center. And that was the last time I saw him.
I must have been about Vesey Street, and I see Glenn. I walked over to him, and I'm about to tap him on the shoulder, and he turned around, and before he had a chance, we had a chance to kind of say anything to one another, my reporter grabbed me and said, Neil, start shooting these people running. And then Glenn just takes off in the direction of the towers.
And I see Glenn, walking up the street. He's got his camera to his side, and he's wearing his blue NYPD jacket. And I was with somebody else at that time, somebody who I'd met on the street. And this person that I was with was like picking up stuff off the ground, like he was gonna walk away with it, The first thing Glenn does is, walks up to him and he's like, hey, he says hi, this is like crazy, And he goes, to this guy that I'm with, drop that. He's like, that is evidence. He's like, do not follow me, whatever you do, Because that was one of the first things I said, he's, somebody that I know who can help me get to certain places, to document certain things that I wouldn't normally maybe be able to, But he chose to say no. He said, Jack, just, get away, get as far away as you can. He saved my life, I mean, there's, he could have just as easily have said to me, Jack, all right, I know you, stick near me, all right, we'll, come in for a little while and we'll shoot some stuff and then you can get out of here, or any number of possibilities, I saw the firemen arriving, so I started shooting again. And as they're streaming into the building, there's, Glenn right behind them. I'm shooting these guys going down into building 4, and, the last images that, I have that I still run through over and over again, or of Glenn just scurrying down the steps, right beside them.
He was doing what he was meant to do. If the chances that he has passed on because of it, he did, and he died doing what he loved to do. And I don't think you could ask anything more of a person at this point.
If we could take 100 of Glenn's and duplicate them, we would never have a problem in the volunteer system. Never.
I think about a poem. I think about that. Do not go gently into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And Glenn did that. You know, he raged. He always raged, and he worked hard. He always did the right thing, and he always did what was in his heart.
And in a time when it's very easy to focus on hate and anger and vengeance, Glen's brought this family together and made us feel a lot of love and a lot of happiness.
I love you. I miss you. And if you can't come home, God rest your soul.